Hey Shark fans, it's your pal Ian. I'm here to talk about the San Jose Sharks. We're going to talk about the playoff push, talk about the schedule. We're going to try and break things down as good as I can so that you guys can have a good understanding of where the Sharks really stand in our playoff push this year. This is hopefully going to be the first of a few videos that I'll be doing between now and the end of the regular season to kind of document where we are in our playoff push and just give you a no BS, this is what it is. So let's talk about the remaining schedule. The remaining schedule has the Sharks playing 17 games. In order to get into the playoffs, the Sharks will probably need about 95 points. 95 points is going to mean that the Sharks probably need to win about 11 games, or they could win less and lose some shootout overtime losses. But we don't want them. We don't want that. We want them to win. We want them to increase their ROW column, which I will explain later. So, Sharks need 11 wins. How do they do that? Well, the Sharks are playing 17 more games, which I've said a bunch of times now. Of those 17 games, 7 of them are on home ice at SAP Center. 10 of them are on the road. Of those 7 home games remaining, 4 of them start this Saturday with the game against Vancouver. Following that game against the Canucks, they will also have to play the Blackhawks, the Predators, and the Penguins, which I did not get that order right at all, but those are the 3 teams that they play other than the Canucks. To say that this homestand is important is an understatement. The Sharks cannot afford to go on a skid on SAP ice like they have in February. I know they won their last game on SAP ice against the Canadiens, but we've seen the Sharks win a good game, impressive game before, and then sputter out. So they cannot afford to lose too many games on this homestand against some really good teams, especially one in Nashville that completely handed it to us not too long ago. All right. Other than that, what else can I tell you about this home schedule? Or not even the home schedule, just the schedule in general. The Sharks are going to play in these 17 games. 7 of those games are against non-playoff teams. This probably comes as little comfort to Sharks fans because of how the Sharks have played against teams that aren't, playoff teams in the past this year. These games, they need these points. If they can pick up points in all these games, it makes them, it makes the games against the much tougher opponents a little more, gives them a little more breathing room, which they don't have a lot of right now. The reason they don't have a lot of breathing room is because everyone they're chasing has games in hand, with the exception of the Winnipeg Jets. Now, the easiest path for the Sharks is going to be through the division, in my opinion. So the Sharks are looking to get to that second or third Pacific Division playoff seed, so they don't have to worry about fighting with the wild card teams for a spot. The teams in the wild card spots are the Winnipeg Jets and the Minnesota Wild, both of which have significant not significant, but they have points on the Sharks, more points than the Sharks. So for the Sharks to have to fight with one of them to get in, it definitely makes the road a lot harder. They can have less points than the wild card team if and get into that second or third spot in the division. So that's why I think that's the easiest path for them. Obviously, the teams that they're going to have to fight for those positions are the Calgary Flames, the Los Angeles Kings, and the Vancouver Canucks, who they also play on Saturday night. The game against Vancouver is extra important because if the Sharks win, they get within 2 points of Vancouver for that second playoff seed, or just the playoffs in general. Whereas if they lose, Vancouver will have a 6-point lead on them, which is not good. LA has a game in hand. Right now, they're currently tied with the Montreal Canadiens, so hopefully Montreal can come back and win that game and, hand LA a loss, and then we can pass them in points on Saturday if they don't play again tomorrow, which I'm not sure. The other thing, too, is the Calgary Flames. This is a team that I thought, without Mark Giordano, they'd be so in trouble, and yet they just continue to win. Why? Because this team works their ass off. I wish we had a team this year that worked as hard as the Calgary Flames, because with the talent that we have and that kind of effort, we're not talking about do we make the playoffs or do we not. We're in the playoffs. We're fighting Anaheim for first overall in the West. But it is what it is. This is what we have. At Vancouver is a team that we're chasing, obviously, in our division. They're riddled with injuries. They've lost their starting goaltender. This is a team that, is probably most likely to fall out if anything. But they're still, they've still got the inside track. They've got points. They've got games in hand. So, can they make it? I don't know if they're gonna have the horses to get all the way in, but their chances are really, really good. Which obviously brings us to the Los Angeles Kings. This team does this every year. They suck for half the season. They turn it on and they go. I know a lot of people want to see the Sharks do something similar to that. Hey, I'd like to see the Sharks do something similar to that. The problem is the difference between these teams is just the sheer lack of depth the Sharks lack compared to the Los Angeles Kings, unfortunately. I mean, I'm never going to sugarcoat it for you. It is what it is. That's what it is. The difference between the two teams. All right, so I already said the easiest path to division. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much how the playoffs look. I did say I would explain the ROW number or row. Basically, ROW stands for regulation and overtime wins. So every time you win a game in regulation or in overtime, but not a shootout, you get a tick in the row column. The row column is the first tiebreaker. So if we finish with an identical record to another team, the first thing they're going to look for is the row number, which is why the Sharks do not want to limp in getting stupid overtime loss points, because if they get overtime loss points or, wins in a shootout, they could still lose on a tiebreaker. Again, the other, teams will have games in hand on us. That's frustrating. That is why the Sharks don't have an inside chance. That's why when you look at these odds sites, the Sharks have a 30% chance to make it, as opposed to other teams that have a much better chance because they've made the better use of the games that they've played so far. But it is what it is. The Sharks are still definitely in it. I don't want to come off as thinking that is telling you the Sharks are out. Are the odds good? No, not right now. Could that change? Yes. We need help from the out of town scoreboard. We need teams that are playing, the Vancouver Canucks, the Winnipeg Jets, the Minnesota Wild, the Calgary Flames, the LA Kings. We need these teams to pick up points against them. That will do worlds of good to help us increase our odds of making the playoffs. And you'll see those percentages for the Sharks go much higher consistently if those teams start losing. But right now, if those teams keep winning and the Sharks keep winning, it might not matter because the Sharks will run out of road first, and that's the reality of the situation. So I hope this helped break down the playoff push a little bit more, other than just giving you some percentages and some points. So I hope you guys understand why the Sharks are in tough still. There's nothing guaranteed at this point. They have a tough schedule. Again, out of those teams, 10 of those teams are playoff teams. That's a tough slog. But I have hope. I know you have hope, and we're hoping to all be, continuing to have videos about Sharks playoff hockey, which is what I hope to be doing. If you have any questions or anything like that, hit me up on my blog. The blog is ianblogsharks.blogspot.ca. You can follow me on Twitter, ianblogsharks rather. You can also email me at ian.blogs.sharks@gmail.com. That's it, guys. Have a good night. Bye.